In fact, in the SEAL teams, we break down entire protocols to 2 words so that everyone can say 2 words and make this happen, or different 2 words and make this happen, or different 2 words and make this happen.
Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez
and me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day.
Your legacy isn't defined by what you achieve personally. It's defined by the success and growth of those you lead. The true measure of a coach is found in the strength, resilience, and character of their athletes. Every day, you're writing the story of your legacy through the people you touch, the lives you improve, and the community you build. And that is an excerpt from Jason Ackerman's book, Best Hour of Their Day.
When you take my words and you put them in a man's voice, it sounds badass, man. I got fired up. Thank you. I need you to talk. Everything I say, I'll just run it like we need a Jocko.
Listen,
I recommend you do not do your own audio book.
I did not.
This
Thank
is the
you
one
for that.
time we're going to
Thank you for
deviate
that.
from that guy and just like, you should not read that.
Thank you. That was cool. That was cool.
Oh, man.
Hey, this is our second year in a row. Is that a tradition? Is 2 in a row a tradition?
I guess. Or an accident. No.
That's what Jocko's like. Phil, you're fired. You're fired.
Sorry, filled with regret already.
Who the fuck are you guys?
It's your second year at the CrossFit Games.
It is. Yep.
You know, since last year, new products out.
Yes.
You've had
Yes.
some hiccups at your box.
You say pickups?
Hiccups. It burned down.
Oh, yeah. Can you
Your
turn this
your-
volume up in these headsets?
Yeah.
Oh, is it not up? Might have a
you can-
wire on it.
Let's see what this one sounds like. Hello?
How's that better?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. So
We sound better when you can't hear
Yeah.
us.
No, I kind of liked it when I couldn't hear anything you were saying.
Yeah.
it's much better.
I was just going to hijack this whole thing.
I
and
was
just
saying-
talk about cool stuff.
You've learned a lot over the last
Yes.
year, I'm assuming.
Yep.
You've got some new products going out. What's the biggest thing you've learned about the CrossFit community in the last year since getting more involved?
Well, I mean, first of all, I've been kind of involved for a long time.
We've had an affiliate
Yeah,
for
I've
15
had
years.
an affiliate for a long time, and I think just for, we did lose our gym, so we had a fire in our gym in San Diego, and we reopened a smaller gym. That's right now it's just fighting, so it's just Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai. We didn't have space to put CrossFit in there, so it's going to be probably another 6 months before we get that reopened. And the thing is, it's very similar. What I found with the Jiu-Jitsu community and the CrossFit community is what we said was when our gym was burned down and we didn't have anywhere to send anybody, people were opening up their doors from other gyms. And I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
No one was saying like, hey, if you come to our gym now, we'll give you a discount if you stay here. No, everyone just said, hey, as long as you don't have a place to train, you can train here. And I think that's the way it should be. And that's what we saw.
We had a box recently also in Florida. The same. Somebody,
Yep.
let's say a car.
Yeah, a drunk driver like literally drove into the building. Like they had to shut down. They had to do workouts outside and had the same thing where box was like, hey, I will give you a home until you guys get this rebuilt. And they sorted it out really quickly. But I agree with you. They're very similar in nature, like the Jiu-Jitsu and the CrossFit communities. I wanted to ask you something. Due to the nature of some of the events this weekend, like I've read both of your books. I wanted to ask you, and you've written about this extensively in your books, like some of the lessons you've learned. It was just like, hey, when dealing with crisis, like kind of, I don't say do's and don'ts, but like some of the lessons you've learned with like, hey, what's like, as a leader, what are some of the behaviors that you would want to instill in other people?
Yeah, so obviously I have been in leadership positions going through some very horrible times.
Right.
And one of the things that you're gonna have to do is you have to focus on the task at hand. So when you're in combat, and this is something that sometimes people don't understand, when you're in combat, if you lose someone, combat doesn't stop.
Keeps going.
And so what you have to do is put your gear back on and go back and do your job. And I think that's sort of an immediate reaction. What we have to be careful of is that at some point you have to address what happened. And when I look, obviously you're going to debrief what happened,
Right.
but you have to kind of address what happened with the people on the team to make sure that they understand what's going to hit them, because people are going to get emotional when you lose someone. It's terrible. You feel obviously a sense of loss. You're going to have survivor's guilt. You're going to think, what could I have done differently? And it's people need to understand what's happening to them.
Right.
So one of the things that I talk about, and again, unfortunately, this is just from my experience in the military of losing my own men and losing my friends. There's going to be some emotions that come into your life that you're not going to be able to control. And this is something that's very difficult for adults, because when you're a little kid, you can't control your emotions. That's part of growing up and becoming an adult, is you learn to control your emotions. And so all of a sudden, for the first time in 20 years or 10 years or 15 years, you can't control your emotions. And all of a sudden you find yourself getting emotional and you can't control it. And it's very uncomfortable for people. And what they think is, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. And what I try and explain to people is that feeling, that loss of control, those super strong emotions that come, those are normal. It's normal for you to go through a grieving process. It's normal for you to have guilt. It's normal for you to be upset. All those things are normal. And the other thing that's normal is that over time, those negative emotions, the sadness, the anguish, those will start to dissipate over time. And sometimes that makes people feel worse, because they think, oh, I lost one of my friends, I lost one of my guys, and I'm not as sad as I was 6 months ago. What's wrong with me? The answer is, there's nothing wrong with you. You are going through the grieving process, and some of those emotions, you're starting to methodically go through them in your head and put them in a spot where you'll be able to move forward in your life. So those are some of the things that I've been through. Another, one last point on this is, I oftentimes was the person that was going to give a eulogy at a memorial service. And so what that means is, within a couple hours of losing one of your friends, I'm breaking out a notebook and starting to write down what's going through my head, what feelings I had, what I'm going to miss about this person, and you're putting those on paper. And that is a form of detachment, and it's a way for you to process what you've gone through. And so I think that is what I found later, looking back, is I believe that's very therapeutic. Number one, if you don't, number one, for yourself,
Right.
to sit and write down your thoughts and your feelings and your assessment of what happened. And then that's what you do for yourself. And then also discussing it with your people that are close to you, your teammates, your friends, your family that you can trust. Look, this doesn't mean you walk up to every person and start, pouring your heart out to somebody, because people aren't, that's not normal.
Right.
But your close friends, your teammates, your family, you can talk through these things. And I believe that getting these things out and talking about them allows you to think through and process them better.
Were you always a writer, or when did you start? When did you kind of pick that up?
So in the military, when I became an officer in the military, you have to write concept of operations.
Yeah.
You have to write after actions reports. You have to write evaluations for your troops.
Yep.
You have to write awards for your troops. And so I started writing a lot when I became an officer, and then I went to college and as an officer. And since I realized that was probably the skill that I could garner that would provide the most payout for my troops, was to be able to represent them well in writing. Because when you send an evaluation up the chain of command, look,
That sit rep needs to tell the inaccurate story.
I know Jason, I work with him every day, but if you're my boss, you're judging him off of what I wrote.
Right.
If I'm a bad writer, you don't know what he's doing.
Right.
If I'm a good writer, I can make him look good, which is what I should be doing.
Yeah.
So when I realized that the most beneficial thing I could do for my troops was become good at writing, that's when I went to college, I studied English. And so that's how I became a writer.
Yeah. There's two things from your first book that like I use a lot, quite frankly. So I wanted to tell you that and thank you. One of them is the concept of, and kind of to the previous topic we were talking about, is the stop, look around, make a decision. And I use that all the time. Like when I get fired up about something, I don't react to it. And maybe it's a second, maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week, it doesn't matter. But I think, and I'm like, hey, I don't have to react immediately. I can kind of like survey the landscape and make a better decision than I would have, emotionally in that state. The other one is a little bit more business oriented, which has served me well many times, is the enemy gets a vote, which is understanding like everybody gets to react to everything. And if you understand, hey, if I have an output, they get to react to the output, whether it's a competitor or if something comes into me inbound from the ecosystem or whatever, I'm like, I don't have to just take it. I can react to that. I get a vote in that scenario and do that too. And I use those a lot. So I want to tell you thank you for both of those, dude. So
One of the company's values is extreme ownership.
Yeah.
We preach it with all of our staff, so we do appreciate that.
Push Press Core and Grow have this synergy when they work together that makes my life much easier as a business owner.
Push Press simplifies and makes our life easier to where we don't have to worry about anything.
The product I was using before was slow, was always down when I needed it the most. And now I have this wonderful system that I rely on heavily to communicate with my leads, with my members, and I'm seeing such benefit, and it's in terms of reducing my manual workload.
I shopped different programs, and when I landed on Push Press, I felt like they were for me. And I loved the help behind the scenes at Push Press. Everyone I talked to is a gym owner themselves.
What appealed to me from the beginning was they actually cared about my business. These are real people who like I can communicate with, and like who are now like Facebook friends of mine or whatever, like follow me on Instagram. We send little stupid things back and forth to each other.
Push Press has been so helpful. They've truly mentored me on top of just being a software program.
Push Press for us has been so user-friendly, and the communication that I can get through their contact us so fast and efficiently has helped me in regards to finding and sorting out our leads, our scheduling.
Their products, being able to layer them on as you need them is really important too, because maybe a new gym owner isn't ready for Push Press Grow and how powerful it is. Maybe they just need the billing like I did. And then a year from now, they're ready to put something else in there.
It's a no-brainer. I don't know what the hell are you waiting for? Tell me what problems you're having and I'll just tell you how Push Press solves them.
I don't know how I would be able to do all the things that I do as a sole business owner and a mom of three without the support of Push Press.
Are you still training right now? I know you were hurt.
Yeah, no.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All good?
Yeah.
You back at it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Did I have some random injury last time I was here? Yeah, sure.
I just walking
all
around
do.
perpetually
We all
hurt,
do.
yeah.
It's just part of the gig, you know. And when people ask me what I do when I'm injured, do what I can, do what I can.
We were talking to box owners earlier about this idea that it's okay to chill and rest. As someone known as like, I wake up at 4:30, I think the impression you might give some people is like there's no off button. How do you find that off button, and how do you get over that mindset of not only is it okay to chill at times, like you've mentioned, I'll have a chocolate chip cookie. I'm not a lunatic,
sure,
right? Like,
100%.
how do you get someone to understand not only is that valuable, it's necessary to show up tomorrow at 4:30?
Yeah, you gotta figure out what pace you can run at, and different people have different paces that they can run at. And what you gotta pay attention to, this was very obvious when I was training MMA fighters. So, and you've probably seen this from training anyone in a competitive space athletically. You can watch, and they're performing at this level and performing at this level, and then their performance just drops. Mm-hmm. And it was very obvious to see with fighters, because someone that maybe was giving me a hard time grappling, all of a sudden, after 2-3 weeks of training, all of a sudden I can just destroy them.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious that they've overtrained. I like to see that signal. I like to receive that signal that, oh yeah, you're overtraining. And so I do that with myself. I'll kind of push to a point. Probably about 6 months ago, I was turning into burning and turning and burning. And I was flying home from the East Coast, and I got on the plane, And normally when I'm on the plane, I'm preparing, writing, preparing a podcast, whatever. That's I work. And I got on the plane and the screen came up and Zoolander was on. And I was like, yo, I'm about to watch Zoolander right now.
Ben Stiller.
Without a care in the world. So yeah, I just kicked back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I knew I knew any work that I was going to do right now is going to be garbage. And I probably watched 40 minutes of Zoolander and then fell asleep and crashed out. So I like to pay attention to what your performance levels are, not just athletically, but where's your brain at? If you go home to your, I've got a wife and kids. If I go home to my wife and kids and I'm not engaging because I'm tired or I'm thinking about other things, I know it's like, oh yeah. So I think to answer your question, what you have to do is you have to have a good monitoring system to make sure that, and paying attention to and being aware of where you're at. I've been using this a lot with businesses lately. You got a bunch of, like flying a plane, right?
Right.
You got fuel, you got airspeed, you got altitude. You got to pay attention to all these things. And if your airspeed is really high because you're going fast and you lose track of your fuel, well, now you're going to crash. If your airspeed is really high but you lose track of your altitude, you're going to crash. If you are trying to get really high altitude and you don't pay attention to your airspeed, you're going to crash. So you have to pay attention to all these different monitors to make sure that you're engaged properly and that you're winning in these different aspects of your life. So how do you do that? You got to be able, and you've read about it in the books, you got to be able to detach, take a step back, do an assessment. All right, where am I at? Did I just, when I got home for dinner, did my wife say, oh, I cooked you a steak? And I went, oh, put it on the table. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a problem. Did I get up for my workout in the morning and say, oh, this is ridiculous, I just want to stay in bed? That's a measurement that we can take. Did I sit down to write and fell asleep at my computer? That's a measurement to take. And then once you check your dials, then you can start to adjust.
You had a master class come out recently.
Yes, I did.
It was like within 6 months, maybe? Or was that older?
I think it's probably about a year, 9 months old.
Okay, maybe just seeing it a little bit more in my
Yep.
feed. It's leadership based, right?
Yes.
What's the crux of that master class?
The crux is combat leadership, extreme ownership,
Okay.
cover, move, simple, prioritize, and execute, and decentralized command.
I feel like you've practiced that before.
He's done it.
How many businesses do you have?
I've got quite a few different businesses.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple more prominent ones. Clearly I have Echelon Front, which
Right.
is a leadership consulting business. Jocko Fuel, obviously, supplements and food. Origin USA, which is clothing and gear.
Yep.
So those are kind of the primary. I also have Jocko Publishing, which is,
Right.
a publishing company. And
Maybe my next book.
yeah, well, from the excerpt that I read, it's probably not happening.
Quick assessment. Yeah. I'm asking because, if we're speaking broadly to, box owners here, like, I would largely say many of them struggle with communication. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but clearly you've gotten better at it. You wouldn't be able to effectively run these companies if you communicate like shit. What are some of the things with regard to communication that you've learned over the years create effective leadership? Because clearly this is very decentralized. Like, you're not sitting in all the meetings and you're like, hey, you need to do that. What are some of the things that you, as somebody who's managing people and things and projects, to figure out, like, hey, I should communicate this better. Maybe I don't need to interact here. But I'm really curious about that.
Yep. So, number one, you said decentralized command. Absolutely. And for instance, we have big events at Echelon Front, and there's thousands of people at them,
Right.
and there's multiple days worth of programming and planning. And I don't do anything except for show up. I show up, I walk on stage, they put a mic on me and I talk, and that's it, and then I leave. Like, I don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the way it should be. That's
Right.
the way it's designed. As far as communication, so the second law of combat, which is simple, keep things simple, and part of the subheadings there, one of them is simple, clear, and concise communication. So I'm going to think about what I say before I say it to the team. I'm going to write down on my little notepad 4 bullet points that I actually need you to know for this next task that you've got or this next project. I'm not going to give you 27. I'm not going to give you 47. I'm going to give you 3. I'm going to give you 4. Maybe I'll give you 5. They're going to be in simple, clear, concise language, and I'm going to make sure you understand those. And then I'm going to cut you loose to go and make things happen. So simple, clear, concise language, taking a moment to write things down before you say them is very important as far as articulating verbal commands to people. In fact, in the SEAL teams, we break down entire protocols to 2 words so that everyone can say 2 words and make this happen, or different 2 words and make this happen, or different 2 words and make this happen. Because why do we do that? Because we know if we relied on that individual to describe to the team how we want them to execute this thing, he would come up with a 7-paragraph thing like I just read, which was horrible.
There's 1 paragraph for the record. So,
just kidding. It was exquisite writing.
hey, hundreds of people have read that book, and they love it. So, with affiliate ownership and getting more involved, have you been to more affiliates around the country this past year?
No, I haven't been to more affiliates. I don't really. When I travel very quickly. So
like in out.
Yep. I arrive, at night at 11 o'clock at night. I wake up in the morning. I do burpees in my room, or I'll hit a hotel gym for one of those junk workouts. Go and do my work, and I fly out that night. And so I get back to my house, my gym, my jiu-jitsu. That's kind of what I do. So I don't normally show up in people's gyms.
I heard you on
this is an abnormally long stay for you then, probably.
Yeah, this is definitely an abnormally long stay.
What do you do when you're traveling to hold your own routine? You mentioned like a quick workout. What else are you doing to make sure you're still doing everything you need for you?
Yeah, one of the most important components of that is, even if it's just burpees, I'm going to do something.
Every morning?
I'm going to do something, 100%. There's no 97%, it's 100%. And look, you give yourself 10 minutes to do as many burpees as you can in 10 minutes. Like, that's a good workout. I don't care who you are. Like, you can make that into a good workout.
That's going to suck.
Yeah, it's going to suck. And, I love when I can find some kind of a pull-up bar somewhere. I always think if you can have a pair of rings, I've got a little pair of portable sort of wood rings that I use. They're about, just bigger than your hand. So I've been traveling with those, and I can throw them up on kind of whatever you have in a hotel gym. Can make something happen. I can do some pull-ups. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
That's your go-to.
Yeah.
What's you guys have anything new coming up with Jocko Fuel? So obviously you guys have launched a bunch of new products. Is there anything else?
All the new flavors of the milk are my jiu-jitsu school carries everything every day.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That was a huge part that we needed to improve a few years ago, was really figuring out how to make things taste good. And one of the most important things that we figured out is that I could not be the judge of what tastes good and what doesn't taste good. My taste buds suck. And so I'd be like, oh, this tastes great. And normal people would say, this tastes terrible. So we really invested a lot of money, time, and effort, and brought on professionals that do this for a living and have a lot of experience. And that way we were able to just create really, as you can see, really good flavors.
Yeah.
With our protein, with our ready-to-drink protein, with our powder protein, with the hydrate. The hydrate. Have you tried the Fruit Punch Hydrate?
I just drank one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Fruit Punch Hydrate.
This one's the shit.
I tried the Fruit Punch Hydrate for the first time, and I told my team, I said, I want to do a third-party test because this tastes like it's got 40 grams of cane sugar in it. It tastes so good.
But it's
ridiculous.
natural.
Yeah, but yeah. So we made a whole, one of the huge investments that we did, and that's where the taste is coming from, is we put together a sweetener, and it took us 5 years to figure out.
5 years?
Yeah, it took us 5 years.
Holy shit.
Monk fruit, Reb M, and allulose. We've got them combined together in a methodology that it tastes delicious. So
you probably know more about that than you care to at this point.
I know way more about this stuff than I wanted to. And case in point, in the old days, I would just think to myself, well, it tastes bad. Oh, well, suck it up and do it.
Right.
But people don't want to live like that. And you want to be able to enjoy when you have a protein shake at the end of the day. I mean, for me, our protein tastes like dessert, so I get done, as much as I love steak, and I love steak, when I get done with the steak, I oftentimes still want to have something that tastes like dessert.
Tastes
and
a
so
little sweet.
Break open that protein powder and I get there.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the events this weekend?
I have not. The only thing I've seen so far this weekend was the Chad 1000.
Oh, cool.
So Sarah Wilkinson.
Yep.
She was here.
Good friend of
She's
ours.
been on my podcast before, and I'm friends with her. Obviously, I didn't know Chad, but you know, we connected just through his time in the SEAL teams and her being a widow. So we connected, and so we went out there and watched the Chad, and it was, you know,
She's a stud. I had a long conversation with her. She
absolutely.
was a mentor of mine for because I lived in Virginia Beach, so ended up there because of the Navy. But she was one of my mentors for a long time, and I knew Chad, you know, not super well, but through Sarah, and super proud of the things that she's done over the past couple of years. And like her podcast with you was fantastic. Like she's really good in that setting. She's very eloquent, eloquently spoken, and just a rad human being.
Yep, 100%. So at some point, I'll get to a CrossFit Games where I can, you know, watch some of it.
Well, in all fairness, we've not seen anything either, so.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
I've seen a lot of Tia over there.
Yeah, on that screen right there.
Yeah, nice.
I ran into you briefly at UFC 300.
Okay, right
That
on.
knock. How about that Holloway?
Yeah,
But
that
you were.
was
I
sick.
mean, you were. I could see your head. That was pretty close, but you were cage side.
I had the best seats ever.
I was maybe like 10 rows. My buddy owns the strip CrossFit, so he got us some good
Yeah.
seats. And that knock, I just remember, I'm usually watching in bed, quiet, and I see that knockout, and I'm like on my feet.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm rooting for Gaethje. I love Holloway, but I was like, it was just, what was it like that close?
So there's a couple awesome things that happened. Number one, so I did literally have the best seats in the house. The reason I had such good
You're sitting
seats,
like next to Dana.
yeah, I was sitting right behind Dana, and I was sitting with, and Chris Pratt was, it was Chris Pratt and I were watching this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so what was really cool and what really struck me about the whole thing is, and I think this applies to CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu and nutrition and everything else. So we're sitting, and I've seen Dana over the years because I've cornered fighters and everything like this, and so we're sitting behind him, but he was giving us like between the rounds commentary. You know, he was turning around and saying, "I think Gaethje just broke his nose." You know, because he's and what it showed me was Dana White loves the UFC. He
He's a
loves
fan.
watching people fight. He loves it. He's passionate about it, and that's why the UFC's done so well. And so I think if you're a CrossFit gym owner, if you're passionate about it, look, we all know this. When you have somebody that's passionate about it, if you are a jiu-jitsu owner, a school owner, and that's what you love, you're on the mats. Why are you on the mats? Are you on the mats because you're getting paid? Nope. Like does Dana White need to go to a UFC? Does he need to go to a UFC? No. He's not contractually obligated. I'm pretty sure he has enough money if he doesn't want to go to.
Needs the money.
Right. So why is he there? He's there
loves it.
because he loves the game.
He loves it.
And I think that's a huge thing to think about as the owner of a gym, as the owner of a nutrition brand, as the owner of a jiu-jitsu school or a CrossFit gym. If you love what you're doing, it's going to shine through. And so I think that's very representative of Dana White.
On that note, there's no shortage of gym owners who are like, they fucking love CrossFit. And at some point, that passion starts to dwindle out and they get burned out. I'm sure that's happened at some point in any number of these businesses. Maybe not. I could be wrong.
You're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong.
That's awesome. So
now what happens is it gets diffused.
Okay.
Because I can only go to so many events of mine at a time.
Right.
But look, I'm just as into jiu-jitsu right now as I was in 1993 when I did it for the first time.
That's rad.
I'm just as into working out right now as I was when I got to a team back in 1991. I'm just as into fighting. I'm just as into what I'm eating. So this stuff is all, and I think that's honestly why I'm able to do it, because it's not painful.
Has a lot to do with why you're successful.
It's not painful for me.
Right.
I don't go, oh gosh, I got to go to the gym and do Fran. No, I'm like, oh dude, this is gonna suck, and I'm gonna get some. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I guess if you are in a position where you start feeling some of that passion fade, or you don't want to go to work, I think you got to find people that do, and you got to empower those people. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, and that is true. Like, you did just bust me. You just busted me.
Got him.
So, do I love to go and teach white belts jiu-jitsu right now?
I'm
guessing no.
The answer is no, not really.
Okay, got it. All right. I got that one right.
Do I mind doing it once a month? No problem. Do I mind doing it if I got a pack of people that are learning it for the first time and I'm kind of introducing to it? I actually really enjoy that. But if I've got a class at my gym or at someone else's gym and these people have been training for 2 months and they don't know how to do an arm lock yet and I got to show them the arm lock, am I as passionate about that as I used to be? No, I'm not. So what's good is we have instructors they still love doing that, and that's what you got to look for. So yeah, and even,
Well, that's, I think, I'm not saying that's the answer I was looking for, but I think that's a real answer, meaning that, because you're going to experience that in any business, right? Whether it's in the Navy, you're like, hey, well, I was the first guy that was doing it, and it's cool. I'm learning the skill. I'm intrigued. And then it becomes, I don't want to say mundane, but like, I want to learn something else. I don't want to train somebody else to do that. And then it becomes this rat race. But what you just outlined there is like, you have to build that team so that you can continue to stay really fired up every single day. And now you get to solve new problems and help people, upskill to be a better coach and do that. And I think people get stuck because they're not building the team underneath them so that they can keep the passion. Because if you're doing that all the time, eventually it does run out. Like it just becomes like, fuck this, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, so I revoke my first answer and I'll go with my second answer. Cool. You gotta have that team that's gonna pick up on the things that, and I do get engaged when I'm teaching people to teach. That is more fun than teaching people to do something for the first time. In a lot of cases.
Right.
How's your jiu-jitsu changed? Like for me, I was like, when I was younger, go, go, go. Now I'm like far more chill when rolling. What have you changed with your game?
Man, I love training jiu-jitsu. And here, I'll tell you, legitimately, the biggest change is I used to walk on the mat and immediately engage in raw combat. And now I do like 1, maybe 2 warm-up rounds.
Yeah,
then I engage in raw combat.
I need 2 now. It used to be like, let's do an easy 5, 1 round. Now I'm like looking for someone who's just walked in late so I can get a second one.
I want to break a sweat. I want to break a sweat before I go hard. And that I didn't used to do that. I used to just like, oh, hi, boom, it's on.
Do you have a leg lock game? Are you doing leg locks these days? You have to. What'd I say? I said something bad.
Well, okay, so my main training partner
was Dean Lister, no?
Yeah, for 25 years.
Gotcha.
So the guy
He's got a leg lock game, everybody. He can do heel hooks.
The guy that literally invented this stuff has been my training partner for the past 25 years. So yeah, I can.
Hey, real quick, did you want to announce 2028? Anything?
2028.
Jocko
Ackerman, president, vice president. No. Jocko Ackerman coming out. Is that happening? You want to announce it?
There's better options out there.
I believe I could do. I don't want to do the same type of VP that's currently happening amongst the categories.
Good
well,
God.
we appreciate you making the time to come on. We appreciate you being involved in the affiliate community. I personally throw you on in the gym in my basement 2-3 times a week, just when I'm like, I have no motivation and I need some fake motivation. I'll listen to you, and I appreciate it.
Right on, man.
Thanks for everything you do.
Like I said, thank you. I've read your books. I use it all the time. We recommend it all the time, and it was the way you were able to pair those things, military, and then bring them over into the private sector, has been super useful to me, because I was like, oh, I do have skill sets that I can transfer from that time. So I try to pass that stuff on to other people. So thank you. Yeah,
right
appreciate
on.
it. Yeah,
appreciate it,
cool.
man.
Yeah,
thank you,
brother. Yep.
Thanks, man.
Thank you
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.